All right, let's rock. Money Never Sleeps, episode 9. DeeZe, Skaar, Die is off his Ponderosa photo shoot here for some of the episode, and of course, yours truly. Welcome to the garage, and hyped to have some wonderful guests today. Uh, as usual, I'm going to have them ask some questions, but I had a few to start. DeeZe, how'd you get your name?
My name comes from a nickname I had in elementary school. Very silly nickname. Basically, I would just say words like these, there, anything with a th sound with a duh instead. Teacher mentioned it. My friend thought it was hilarious, and then he just started calling me it. I don't really like my birth name, so we've just rolled with it. And then eventually, like, friends' parents were calling me DeeZe. Anyone who wasn't my family was basically calling me it. So, yeah.
What age was that at? And then
I probably like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Like
Wow,
way
way
before
back.
These Nuts. Had nothing to do with These Nuts, but then it kind of got co-opted. It got co-opted, and now everyone just does a These Nuts joke.
Yeah.
That's a great story, buddy. I didn't know that.
Did you think it was going to be These Nuts? Because that's what most people...
1,000%. I was like, this motherfucker got the best name ever. He actually got These Nuts as like his handle.
I wish it was something like that, but no, it was even older.
That's
amazing. Wow,
amazing.
you do. It is just DeeZe as your. I didn't know that was just DeeZe as your handle. Did you have to buy that?
Oh man, this is a whole nother story if we want to get into this. For a while, it was variations of like DeeZe OSU, went to Ohio State. Then it was DeeZe Fi because decentralized finance. It was a play on DeFi. And then at the start of this year, this guy got DeeZe. I thought he was a scammer, which it actually turns out he was. But I was basically like, I don't want to buy the name because I think you're going to scam me and I don't know exactly how. And I think maybe I'll get banned. So he, went on to ignore me and then tried to extort me. He put my full name and like my wife's name and our photo on the account at DeeZe. And then he would start responding to my tweets, trying to get my attention for me to buy it. And then after like 2 months after that, he randomly messaged me and asked if I wanted it for free. And I was like, sure. What's the catch? He's like, I apologize for my behavior, yada, yada. It's fucked up of me. You can just have it for free. So he gives it to me for free. I think I sent him like $300 or $400 in ETH at the time, just so I could have a semi-clear conscience about it.
Yeah.
And then like 3 months later, he's calling my phone 40 times while I'm sleeping, texting me from 30 different numbers, telling me that if I don't give him an ETH, he's going to get me banned. He's going to send my docs to Poly. He's going to do all this other shit. So I screenshotted some of his messages. I threw them out in a tweet. And I just said like, hey, if this kid does anything, like here's the preface of some messages he's sending me. And ever since I put out that tweet, I haven't heard from him. So we got the name, paid a couple $100. Haven't got fully doxed. He's probably listening to this and is probably going to call me or text me. But yeah, he's fucking relentless. Dude has, I don't know. It's every few months. It feels like he comes back into my life somehow now. So,
oh man,
like fucking scammers.
But that's how we got the name DeeZe on Twitter.
Would you say it was worth it in the end to get the clutch Twitter name? I feel like I wouldn't have wanted.
Probably. I
Yeah,
mean,
probably.
there's this like bit of anxiety that's in the back of my head at all times. Like anytime I get an email, phone number, like phone call, text from a number I don't know, I just assume it's this guy trying to scam me. Like I get fake, Amazon order emails sent to 3 different emails I have all the time that aren't even connected to Amazon accounts. Just this morning, I woke up to like a fake PayPal email. Fake PDF bills. Like I just assume they're all this guy trying to compromise me. So it has made me a bit paranoid. Like I don't know if that's worth it, but yeah, if you're listening, kid, go fuck yourself.
Fuck you, scammer.
Yeah. Oh, that dude scammed Sobe for an ETH. He tried to scam Medved, tried to scam a few other people. Like he went around telling people, hey, I can get you your name. I got D's. Send me 1 ETH and I'll get you the name. And that's kind of his thing.
Wow.
So
Man.
yeah, not to start off the
No. Look,
That is
Todd with that.
well, it's an
don't worry.
yeah. It's an interesting way to start out because of the shit that was hitting everybody yesterday from LastPass too, which is horrific. Where it's just like, yeah, it kind of just
So
highlights
scary.
like I don't know. It's crazy to think. Well, I mean, like it's just it's so weird that like you go to these events, like we met each other. Ben, you weren't in Marfa, right? Or
I wasn't. It was the start of my semester. I couldn't get
I
out of
got
school.
you.
Peer pressure 'em.
It's just right. Well, it's just so weird that like you go to some of these events and like you meet and chill with like the fucking dopest people who were absolute internet strangers, but like you trust like more or less with anything. And then you've got like these like completely polarizing sides, whether it's like it's a space that's both full of blood sucking parasites looking to leech and looking to fucking bleed out everybody in existence. Then there's like other people who are just like fucking have become really dear friends. It's just like it's so I don't think there's any place that there is that there are those two types of people like coexisting in the same place, hashtag coexist.
It brings the best and the worst of both people. I think crypto,
It
with it
does.
being so inherently financial, is bringing that whole wave of people. But like the whole crypto art expressionism era is like it's like so juxtaposed. It's like a fascinating case study on human psychology. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I've said before, like I think is really interesting. When I first started at NFTs, I was like, "Fuck, man, how am I ever gonna like go or trust anybody with these pictures and their anons?" But given the amount of online interaction, the fact you can watch their wallets, and then we all met in person. Ben, I actually met in April of 2022.
Yeah, the Rex party.
Yeah, the Rec party. DeeZe, you and I met. I'm trying to think. I mean, certainly met a
few events ago.
Yeah, a few events ago, and then a guy I first reached out to. I look back September of last year. I'm like, this motherfucker's insane art. And then we hung. I think the first time we hung was New York, but we talked a bunch.
Yeah.
I do think actually, in an odd way, once somebody's validated in this space, you can actually trust them more than you can almost trust in real life people. Because if somebody tells you something in real life, it's not provable. Like all the people on here, you can see them every day. I mean, in a way, I've watched and talked to all you guys for over a year plus, at least actively. And then you meet in person and you see their wallet. So I've actually found that to be a remarkable thing. And most of my closest friends now and the people I vibe with most are like people from the space.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's like, it's so interesting because like what you talked about earlier is like, like the inherent kind of nature is like not to trust anonymous people in the space, in a space that's so filled with people who are, concerned with their identity, and rightly so because of like such a public ledger. However, like in my experience, I've found that like many of the anonymous accounts I interact with on a daily basis I've become so much more like close and have like better relationships with them than I do like you said, even some people in normal life that like turn out to be way more snaky than people that just have like this one social reputation online that they could theoretically duck out and come back as somebody else, but like they kind of, I feel like there's a trust factor in NFTs and crypto that like I don't really find in many other facets of life.
I totally agree. And I think there's also what I call the soft dogs, like these, I know what you look like or whatever, but I think like there's that.
Everybody knows what I look like.
These is like semi-anon at this point.
Yeah, semi-anon, exactly. But I do think there's many people in the space who are generally anonymous, but in small circles of trusted people will dogs. And so I do think you can actually, in some ways, get the best of both worlds. I want to switch gears for a minute. So Ben is sophomore in college, right?
Yeah. Just started my second year.
Ben, I feel like you really burst on the scene sort of maybe a year and a half ago as you were right before college, right? And I'm looking back.
Yeah, I mentioned my first piece in high school.
In high school?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say you started commercial photography when you were 15. I'd love to get a little history of how you got into commercial photography, then how you ended up in NFTs, and how I can teach my kids to be like you.
That's a funny pipeline. Yeah, I mean, I started just basic photography when I was 13. It
Why?
was just
Why? What got you into it?
It was me and my smartphone. I grew up in a small town. A lot of my afternoons I spent just biking around with friends, like, I don't know, fucking around doing normal teenage stuff. And photography to me then was just a way of capturing memories. It still is. I mean, photography is a medium that's like a time capsule. Every image is a moment of life for me. And it quickly kind of turned into like a medium of artistic expression as well. I started to realize like, okay, there's some photos that I'm taking of me and my friends that are just better than others. What makes this better? Is it the lighting? Is it colors, composition? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make these photos look as good as possible, as much as I can, and just spent like a lot of time doing that. I joined Instagram when I was like 14, started kind of just sharing my work on there, and fell into like a creative community of photographers. I bought a drone, was doing a lot of stuff from there just because I was like interested in that new perspective. And then, yeah, I just kind of built an online community through Instagram that kind of gave me some job opportunities locally when I was around 15, like with real estate and some brand collaborations. And then I worked my way up to, you know, I'm working right now on a job with like Samsung. I've done some stuff with DJI and some other camera companies, which has been kind of a cool full circle moment, because like these have been companies that that I started shooting with when I was like just a hobbyist, and then now like to the point where I'm doing professional work with them. And then NFTs was during COVID quarantine. I was part of that Clubhouse onboarding phase where, you know, all my classes had gotten moved online during high school, and I just wanted some sort of social interaction. So I was talking to photographers and artists on Clubhouse, stumbled randomly one day into like an NFT room. I was like, what is this? Instantly fascinated by the idea of digital ownership, because it had been already so intertwined in my life so far. Like I grew up on like Minecraft and PS4 games, and just like other like very easily transmutable forms of digital ownership that I feel like led me to NFTs. And I saw like all the artistic disciplines that it had. Like I was just kind of in a photography niche at that time. I wanted to just expand my horizons. So that's like my age 13 to 17, getting introduced to NFTs. Couldn't even buy Ethereum yet. I had to PayPal my friend John Knopf to get my first Ethereum, because you can't buy crypto until you're 18 in the US. And then, yeah, just I've built everything that I have now off that first little bit of Ethereum. It's been a fun ride.
Super dope. Di, how long do we have you, buddy?
I got to bounce in 15 minutes for this fucking stupid shit.
I have some more. Why don't you have anything? I'd rather give you a chance. I have a bunch more to ask both.
That would be sick. Yeah. So Ben,
yeah, feel free to ask any questions too.
Yeah, so I had a quick question. Just you know, as like I'm an illustrator, obviously, and so you know, when I'm making a piece, I've got this very intentional mindset where it's like I've got a ritual, right? It's just like, you know, like probably DeeZe's territory where it's like spark up a massive bowl, or you're microdosing, or you're like, you know, there's very specific things. As a photographer, you know, do you know what you're trying to shoot on a given piece? Do you have an idea for that shoot, and then do you pursue that shoot, or are you just out there more or less just shooting shit? And then, you know, like obviously some things will turn into something else, and like maybe something beautiful that you didn't expect. But how do you approach intention in creativity?
Fantastic question. It's been one I've been grappling with myself over the past 2 years, because the way I started was very much the latter, just being out there, experimenting, and just coming back with a lot of things that I didn't expect. And I was very just focused on surface level things like aesthetic and beauty. And just, you know, like a lot of my early work is just pure nature photography and things that caught my eye. But like, as I got into NFTs and I was exposed to people just working like yourself, illustration, DeeZe, and AI, and same with you, OG. It's just like there's so many other mediums that I was exposed to that I hadn't been previously, and a lot of these mediums were grappling more with like human expression from within rather than just the outside world, of course, that has that inspiration. And so I began to feel like an inner shift on like I wanted my work to not be so much about surface level aesthetic. I wanted to have like a more rooted visual discussion in the pieces that I was making. So I started to approach photography not as just like an act of documentation, but as like as a way to express myself, like you said, with intention. Like I've released 2 one-of-ones this year, and both of them were formally conceptualized before I even went to the location. I knew exactly what I wanted the shot to be like before I even stepped foot in the country or the place that it was made in, which I think is a very different thing with photography as compared to many other mediums, because photography, your canvas is almost predetermined. Like the world is already set the way it is. You just kind of have to choose how to see it. Whereas like with you, you're starting with like a blank canvas, and you're like with all your broth codes, like I mean, that's maybe not the best example of with your work, but like it's starting white, and you are like, formulating every single pixel that's on that canvas. But for me, it's like I kind of have to. A lot of it is already given to me, so I just work with that, and that's leading me to try other mediums as well, because I think that there's a lot else out there for me to experiment with.
Do you do film at all, or just?
I have a film camera. It's just a 35 millimeter. I'll like walk around with it. Where is it? Somewhere in my backpack. This little guy. I'll walk around the city with this sometimes and just snapshots. It's like 35 millimeter, but it's not. This is more so just for me to document, like I was originally. Digital is my primary medium.
Hell yeah.
What about you?
Thanks, dude.
Are you experimenting with any other mediums besides illustration? I saw like your Rafik piece. You're doing a little movement in your work now. I mean, you've done like kind of static 2-frame animations, but are you like, what does experimentation look like for you right now?
Yeah, it's a lot of cross medium stuff. So like I've been painting a fuck ton lately I've got this like horrific basement studio that has like the worst lighting to ever exist. So like I paint, like, I don't know if you can see back there. There it is right there. Look at that. Look at that overhead, dude. That light is perfect for perfect little shadows. And
it's slightly green, or am I just tripping?
I don't even know, dude. I think it's just it like looks like it's just a jaundiced basement, right? Like it's just this like sickening yellow color that really takes the life out of me. But yeah, I don't even like I've just been getting after a lot of everything, man. As you know, like whatever I can dive into and commentate on, or like just ridicule or like just plunge. I mean, it's funny. I mean, like, so I don't want to even like, I feel people listen to my shit all the time. I don't want to like talk about it. It's like, I was going to say like, DeeZe, so similar to what Ben was saying for like for like his discovery on creation, I thought that was a really interesting, like, Genesis story, if you will, like where it's like, okay, this was how he started out and shit. Like what made you want to start doing your pod? What made you, and also like, I guess just in terms of like, was it just point blank curiosity? And then also on top of that, you've been exploring a little bit with AI shit lately too. Where do you see yourself going creatively?
Yeah. So I have always just liked to talk to people. That's been a lifelong thing. I didn't really talk publicly until NFT blew up in the summer of 2021. I was very active in Discords, like text chat, but not very active in voice chats. Then Spaces came out, and it was like, I'm sitting here doom scrolling all day, trying to look for scraps of alpha, trying to figure out what the next thing is. Why don't I just host these open talk rooms where people can just join and leave whenever? And I just hosted them for like 6, 8, 12 hours a day that summer. And I really liked it, but a lot of the conversations became a bit repetitive. So that's kind of where the podcast came in.
You were doing 12 hours a day on what, Spaces?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would just have space.
God.
I would have space going from like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
You didn't know that, motherfucker?
I would just be there like chain smoking. I mean, there would be like 3-hour spans where I wouldn't talk. Like I would have my phone, I would just have the room going with 2 co-hosts, letting them handle it. I'm like on meetings, but I would not close the space. So it was like
your spaces were like the NFT lobby. Like people,
it was like a watering hole
in and out.
Right.
And then DeeZe is just there at like the desk or something, doing something on his computer.
Yeah, people would know. Like, I mean, I'd shower and leave my phone outside the bathroom, and like people knew that it was a circus, and you could just go up on stage and do whatever you wanted.
Oh, that is hilarious.
But then that's where the podcast came in. So it was like, a few of these spaces were able to have deeper, nuanced discussions. But anytime you have more than 4 or 5 people on a stage, like you don't really get any depth. It's a lot of breath. And a lot of the spaces were just like round tables where you get to ask the same question to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different people. And became a little, not fulfilling. So the podcast was more of like we've made all these wonderful friends and it'd be way better to get to know them deeper. It started out, just being in person because the company would fund it. It was a bull market. It's way like the conversations in person are way better, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Like I'm able to. You've had a couple with me, Di. At this point, you know how it is. It's like there's no phone in front of you. There's no fucking flashing lights and buzzing red notifications.
Yeah.
But anyway, realized that I wanted to have deeper conversations. So just made a list of. I think we have a list in a Google sheet of like 150, 200 people that we're interested in talking to, work our way through the list, just ask people depending on their...
What's that? I said me and Ben on the list. Let's hope.
Guy's been on the pod twice. You guys, especially everybody I follow is on the list at this point. It's gotten pretty big, and I would say that the list isn't even the list anymore. Like there's lists inside the list. I have lists on my phone, like different notes that I just open up and throw 5-10 people in. But anyway, the pod is more of a selfish thing too, of like, well, I want to have these conversations. I never get to talk to people for 2+ hours at once. This is a good way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We get to have the conversation and then we get to record it and share it with other people so they can be a fly on the wall. With the AI stuff, I mean, that came from the pod. Because I was talking to Claire about creating AI stuff, and we did a demo on my phone where I screen recorded her showing me how to use this stable diffusion tool. This is completely free.
Yeah.
And after like 20 minutes of her showing me how to do it, I was like, whoa, like all these light bulbs started going off in my head where I was like, okay, well, we were at a time in the podcast where I was trying to commission artwork from guests to drop to holders. And then that kind of felt weird in the sense that I was picking podcast guests based off of their likelihood to accept the commission offer and not based off of like getting the best podcast episodes we could get. So when I started feeling out the AI stuff, I realized, oh, well, I can make all the art for the podcast. And then it's kind of pushed me creatively every week to make a new piece for the episode. So it's kind of this new process where whether I like it or not, I have to do the work because the episode needs a thumbnail. And that has just forced me to get better at it. Like I don't know, made 35+ pieces at this point.
And
for the podcast.
These editions, like you're doing.
Yeah. I incorporated those into that 35 number. I think there's like 5 or 6 of those out now too. And that's a whole thing where when I come up on something that I created and I like it, but I can't use it for the podcast in some way, I do like a free drop for the holders of the editions.
And what do you think? So the other question I have that I think would be interesting for people to hear, like I know, most artists, Ben, I don't know if you partake or if you're allowed to admit that as you're like in college or I guess that was my heaviest drug usage time, really. Like college was pretty much it. But DeeZe, I saw that you had sobered up, like you were off weed for a while. Did you find, I mean, in all honesty, did you find yourself better at interviewing, at podcasting and talking, or were you completely like, just it's an interesting thought because like a lot of creatives like myself, I really love smoking weed and I rely on it in many ways to help with anxiety and other shit. So
for the last 2 seasons of the pod, I've done almost every episode sober.
yeah, you
And
did
I
ours sober,
do.
I think, in New York, right?
Yeah, I was very adamant about I'll smoke after. I think like 2 of the pods I might have smoked before, but every other one was sober. And I do have a better conversation. I'm more on point. I'm more able to juggle, 5 or 6 simultaneous like thoughts in my head. Like I might have different paths I want to go down depending on what someone says. And when I'm high, I just focus on like 1 or 2 things and like maybe zone out a little more than I should because I'm trying to hold on to this 1 or 2 things in my head. But for creative measures, I was the least creative I've been that month I was sober. I didn't really want to open Discord and go to Midjourney at all. I didn't want to use Procreate. I didn't want to do anything creative. So very shortly after I started smoking again, I like released another edition because that month I was sober. I didn't have any work that I was proud of. I was just, pissed off. I would make some stuff for like 2 hours, look at it, hate it, and then come back like next week. Like it wasn't even like the next day. It was like, fuck it. Like, I don't want to think about this.
Well, OG, is that? I mean, we just saw you do a huge bong load. Like you seem like you function better high then. And again, like this is probably this might be boring for some people, but I just feel like it's an interesting debate because it's like
this is a real question. And DeeZe was making fun of me, and Marfa rightly so, because I like got too stoned and freaked out on Brentech, which it's a rare case. But the look, it's as unusual to speak openly, but I've suffered from like anxiety. I have ADHD,
Yep.
and some proneness to depression.
Yeah.
And I think, I tried like Cipro and some other stuff, and I found that the combination of Concerta, caffeine, and sort of a low, steady dose of weed all day really does make me my best self. And people are always surprised, I think, if you like use weed chronically and not like insane amounts, I guess maybe a couple bong hits his, but I think like for me, I find it helps me be a better version of myself. And I kind of approach all substances as in the harm reduction. Like I quit hard liquor in 2013 because I never want to be in a state where I can't control myself. And you'll never find me. I mean, Rec 2160 was hanging with me. I've cut back on drinking, but I only drink beer. And we were like in Art Basel, and he's like, bro, I've watched you drink like 10 IPAs in the last few hours. And I used to drink like 3 IPAs on the show. So I cut back on beer too, but I just do everything in a way like I don't ever want to have to not be myself. I don't want to ever wake up and be like what I do or out of control ever. I want to be 100% dependable. Yeah. And I think you've known me, and I mean, even when I'm hanging out, if I party, but I'll never not be dependable. And so that's how I do it. I never want it to make me feel worse, not be able to be the person to live the life I want. Now, look, for people who are 18 and under, there's different, like, I think you have to be realistic that if you use substances at that age, your brain is still forming. And so I think, like, obviously I'm an old guy, I'm 48. And so it's a different thing, and legally obviously different, but yeah. So I think it's a fair question. I know a lot of people in this space. It's lovely in the space how open people are about issues. I grew up with a dad who literally, when I was 9, was like, your feelings don't matter, never cry. And I didn't cry for like 30 years. So, for real.
Dude,
actually. And then I went to therapy. This is one of the funniest things. I cry after like 30 years. And like a Freudian genius, I like call my dad right after. I'm like, Dad, guess what? I didn't cry for 30 years, but I finally cried. And he's like, shh, don't tell anyone. Like, for real. So I just, look, I've done a bunch there. And so, yeah. So, I mean, being open and honest, it's sort of like, and I'm also in a lucky position. I used to be CEO of 2 companies, and due to some unfortunate life circumstance, I'm blessed now, though, that like this is what I do full time and hang around and chat with artists and try to learn about art and hang out with people. And so I'm lucky in that I have a lifestyle that's all right. And I think everyone should also consider, their job and lifestyle and not do anything ever that compromises that.
Hell yeah. And dudes, I gotta head out in a second. So speaking of that, it's hilarious. And Ben, I mean, hopefully you don't fall. This is an interesting question, I guess, for Ben that I can leave you guys with. But essentially, I mean, like I still work a piece of shit job. It would be so interesting to have. It has to be weird for you to be in college and already be like successful at what you truly love in life. You know, like I mean, you've had some success, you've had some great success. Like, you know, there's some notoriety there. Like, how weird is it to think that you've got a full life ahead of you where you're not in DeeZe, probably went through this too, and same with OG, where you're in college and you're like, look, dude, I'm gonna graduate and I'm just gonna work somewhere I fucking hate until I die. Like, you know, that's like that's the American dream. And it must be weird for you to grapple with that, Ben, to just be like, there's a possibility that I could be like doing something I love for fucking 60 years or 80 years or whatever. It's fucking wild to think about that.
Quick, I didn't even know that you weren't full time. Are you willing to share what you do?
I create digital waste for a living for like a huge corporation, pretty much. So like I pretty much get paid to spam people and program emails.
Damn, I had no
Yeah,
idea.
it's kind of
You
it's the pinnacle of lifelessness and like just, you know, psychotic mundanity and like I mean it's absolutely it fucking kills you inside to do it. I mean,
That's
there's
got to
certainly
play
worse.
into your art, though.
It
Like,
is. It does. Yeah, it really is, dude.
there's a
It's
strong correlation there.
yeah.
That's
But
fascinating,
dude,
man.
but I do got I get so I'm gonna bail for this thing, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave you guys. I feel like that's an interesting question though for Ben. I mean, how does it feel to have the entire fucking world?
DeeZe, I'd like to hear because his story is
DeeZe.
really interesting. About one of the things that strikes me for DeeZe is like how he's gamified. And I've read, you know, Liam Herbst and some others did some great overviews of DeeZe and his incredibly successful history. But I think for both of you, that's a really interesting question.
Agreed.
So I'd love to hear it too.
All right, love y'all guys. Peace.
Love you, Di. Have a good rest of
It's
your
very
day.
flattering. For me, I was definitely on the track that Di mentioned, where you graduate college, you're looking down the barrel of a debt gun, and you're like, what is the minimum effective job I can get where I can have the most amount of free time on the job and the lowest expectations, but also make enough money that I don't want to kill myself. And for me, that like first job was like an IT help desk job, and that was ass. But I eventually worked my way out of the help desk role, and things got a little better because you weren't kind of the first responder on all the bullshit. But that job allowed me to spend like 6+ hours a day doing whatever the fuck I wanted, because the government agency I worked for, they didn't need like that much help all the time. Like, people are slow at tech and boomers are frustrating, but once you hold their hand enough, there's days where you might only have 2 meetings and an hour of work, and then the rest of the time you're paid for 9 hours. So you just fucking do what you want. And then I spent all my time playing video games and researching crypto, and it just so happened to work out for me. I was trading punks on the job. Like,
a bunch of your friends were like making money in crypto, and you're like, what the fuck, right?
None of my real life friends. It was all my daily fantasy friends. The people so my real life friends, I was trying to get them into crypto. Right. They bought the top in 2017, didn't average down, watched me make enough to quit my job. And then I think some of them kind of, resent me in a way. It's kind of weird now, looking back. But yeah, it was one of those things where, I got lucky, but I was just trading on the job. Like, I just go in and be in Discord, and we were in the IT division. All of our computers were on their own VLAN, which we didn't have any like internet filters, so we could do whatever we wanted online. So I could go to Binance or put a VPN on my computer and act like I'm in Switzerland and then trade on BitMEX. Like, yeah, it was great.
And how about you? I remember actually seeing a post when I think it was before you went to college and you had some really big successful thing and you were being celebrated by a bunch of people. And I remember sort of feeling your vibe at that moment and meeting you shortly thereafter at a rec show. But what's that like for you? Like it's so different than my college experience. So I'd love to hear, like Di said, how do you think about it? Or it's just life, or what do you?
Yeah, it's like I'm in such a strange position at the moment. Like, you know, having found something that I resonate with so much at this point in my life where I ideally have, you know, decades left to act on it and continue to just tell stories and make things. It's just a lot of my future, I feel, at least from the outside, is being based on this one cycle that I've participated in. Like I joined crypto and NFTs say in 2001, and I was there for that, you know, hell of a bull market, and also the quote unquote winter since. So I think it's pretty difficult for myself or anybody else to predict, you know, what the rest of my life looks like. I'm in college now, in an amazing city here in Manhattan. I feel like I'm very grateful for.
I went to Columbia. I don't know.
Oh
If you
yeah. So I'm down at NYU. I didn't know you were at Columbia. I'm super grateful to have like parents that support what I do with art and that are, you know, helping me with college. And like regardless where I end up, they're amazing people, and I'm gonna work my ass off while I'm here to create opportunities for myself. Like that's, if there's one thing I'm proud of myself for, it's just continuing to show up, and never, you know, like trying to maintain some sort of ambition. I want to make art for the rest of my life. I want to be surrounded by other people that are hungry, and like my mom always told me to surround myself with good people. So if there's anything that I'm doing here while I you know, tell my stories and express myself, it's just I feel like I'm building relationships with people that inspire me and that, you know, are doing great things in their own right. Like I'm so inspired by so many of the project founders and artists and, you know, the people that are right beside me right now. I don't know. I just taking it week by week.
Yeah, dude, that's
just got to graduate college and, you know, work hard. I don't think things get any easier from here. So
absolutely, what a great attitude, man. Both you.
What did you study at Columbia?
So I did an MBA at Columbia graduate school. So I went.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was really sick.
And did you stay in New York after, or did you move?
So I went to undergrad at Duke, and then I moved to New York. I was in New York the bulk of 6 years.
Awesome.
And then after I graduated Columbia, I moved to LA. I was in finance. I worked at a hedge fund in LA, and then I moved up to the Bay Area and worked at hedge funds for a number of years before leaving in the 2008 crash.
It's a good
time. I lived in New York on 9/11.
Wait, sorry, you were or you would have been?
I was.
Oh, you were.
Wow. I lived at McDougal in Houston during 9/11. Wow. I was working in Manhattan, and I had to walk home from 50th to McDougal in Houston, and I worked for a San Francisco company. The next day, I went back into work, which was like, in hindsight, was crazy. And the trains were shut down again because of like threats, and I had to walk home 53 blocks again.
Yeah, it's hard for me to like put it into context because 9/11 was before I was born. But of course, you know, like being in the city now, I can see its impact. It's a really crucial part of this city's history. It's just so much has built off of that event.
For sure. I love New York. It's amazing.
Like I moved, so I'm from Boston originally. My family still lives up there, and I love to return for like the holidays. But I came to New York because I really, you know, I wanted to pursue some sort of higher education, but I also just wanted to be in New York in my 20s, like surrounded by one of the greatest like artistic communities in the world. There's just so much energy in Manhattan. Every time I step out onto the sidewalk, I feel super inspired to do things, making great friends here. I don't know. It's like, it feels like a great place for me, at least.
When I lived there, I was like, what? This is the center of the fucking universe. Like, why would you want to
Yeah, Dave Krugman recommended me a book that I have to read. I just got it the other day. It's called like The Island of the Center of the World. It's about Manhattan, but I feel like there's just something about this place that like I don't know. I just gravitated towards, and I'm very very grateful to be here.
Dope. I want to switch gears a bit. Both of you are collectors as well. Are there any artists or anything happening right now in the digital art scene that you find super interesting or exciting or particularly focused on?
DeeZe, I'll let you take this.
I think we're both pretty obsessed with Sam Spratt. It's probably the largest common thread.
Obsession is a pretty
All three of us.
word.
Insanely.
Outside of that, I know Summer Wagner has been working on a collection for over a year. Really looking forward to when that's released.
Break the photography space when that drops.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of her work, and I got to talk to her on the pod before some of this was being created about some of the things she was doing, and I've been looking forward to that one for a while. Other than that, there's probably stuff I'm missing, honestly. Like I know that sounds bad that I don't have more off the top of my head. But I haven't been minting art blocks. Like I have been bidding on old art blocks, trying to get things.
Anything you can share now?
I don't have any anti-cyclone. I think that's probably the biggest hole in my collection as a generative art collector. I wouldn't mind trading
yourself as a generative art collector.
Yeah, I would think so. It was kind of, by chance or serendipity. It was a lot of, well, I'm in Punk's Discord and Snowfro's really awesome, and these squiggles are $20, and they look cool and they move. And then the next thing you know, you're minting every single curated art blocks drop for 6 months.
Trade.
What?
That was a good trade. You did.
Yeah, it wasn't even meant to be a trade at first. It was just like, we like buying this. We like the sense of generating something never before seen. Like we kind of know what is gonna happen, but we don't really know. It's like we could get a really rare one or a really cool one, and that type of like, oh, I'm ripping open a Pokemon card pack, but instead of knowing like, oh, I can get a Charizard, it's like, oh, I could get anything. I could get like a Hyper Charizard that had a baby with Venusaur, and that is something that I'm addicted to. I have been minting things on Prohibition. I check in
Prohibition.
I check in on Prohibition like once a week or two and just see what new stuff. Like I think recently I minted Particles by Dav. It's like really interesting sound built into these. It's not just like a look at the visual, oh, it's cool. It's like, oh no, like play the music, play with this.
Yeah.
And it sounds good, which is always impressive. And then Heart and Craft, of course. And then I think Young Weekend and Ed Balloon and a few others I've minted from. Other than that, I bought a bunch of parallel cards. Not a bunch. I bought all the starter packs just to play the game. I think that's kind of interesting. I think the game is actually fun. I think I've played maybe 30 games of it now, but
that's a big upside in any crypto game, is if it's actually fun.
It's the only crypto game I've played that has made me come back the next day and been like, oh, I want to like build upon what I did here.
It is because that's the first. I mean, typically, as you guys and as you just said too, I mean, most of this shit's like play it for 2 seconds and then what about that is hooking you?
It feels to me kind of like Hearthstone in a way where the games are really quick. None of the games I've played have taken longer than like 15 minutes, even though it's like a minute per turn. And it's fairly easy to intuitively see what the cards do and jump in. Like I just bought these starter decks. I didn't have to build any decks. And, I was winning like 30%, 40% of my games, which felt higher than maybe it should have been because I'm not a good card game player and I have no idea what the cards do, but was just intuitively reading them and using my brain, and it felt right, like, which felt good. It wasn't like I was just getting creamed. And yeah, I mean, the art is really, really nice. Like the game is polished. The client doesn't feel like janky beta where things don't work when you click on them. It's like all the art, the voiceovers, I kind of feel like the voiceovers and the sound are a little immersive. Like, at least for a card game, you have this Paragon who's like talking, and I don't know, there's a good amount of sound effects and just keeps your attention. Like, it's like I said, the games are quick enough that you're not just spending 30 plus minutes and wondering if you're just wasting your time.
Did you ever play like Magic the Gathering when you were going?
No, I literally played Hearthstone for like 2 months, quit.
Yeah.
I'm much more of an auto chess type of player. Like, I love team fight tactics.
What
for sure?
Player
Auto chess, or like an auto battler. You
Yeah,
basically can set pieces on a board, and then after 30 seconds, your board battles somebody else's board. You win or lose.
the actual hand-to-hand of it. You just get the outcome.
Yeah, you just get the outcome. Like, you basically set the board and you watch them fight the other board.
It's actually so interesting for me to hear your frameworks as not a big current gamer. I mean, I played
Auto chess is kind of like
no, just hearing how you talked about the game and what hooked you and why you go back. That was very helpful.
Yeah, I like auto chess because it's similar to card games in the sense where, you have units and you have some type of cost, whether it's energy or gold or something, and you're just trying to make the strongest board to fight other people. But it's different in the sense that I think, actually, I don't know how to articulate it now that I think about it. I've probably never articulated it before, but there's something about the auto chess to me that feels more fun than the card game. I don't know if it's watching the simulated fight and there being a pause. I don't know if it is because to me, with a card, it's like most cards, they can either attack or they have an effect, and it's kind of boring. Whereas like in auto chess, there's characters with different abilities that do different things depending on the composition around them and the different trait. And I'm sure, there are card game examples like the area effects and stuff you can have, but something about the auto chess just feels more fun to me and engaging. So I'm able to improve on it and get better without like getting frustrated and giving up.
Oh, bro, that's a really cool framework. Ben, on the artist, obviously your knowledge of Sam Spratt is incredible. Any other artists or projects you're focused on here?
I really I pay attention a lot to what Transient Labs is building. I'm close with Ben and Marco, the founders, and to me, whenever I see that they're working with a particular artist, that's like a green flag for me, because I know how they think and their vetting strategy and the type of technology that they're building. So I find myself kind of following a lot of the drops that they do and paying attention to who they decide to work with, because I believe in their vision. I think Transient is building brilliant platform that has a lot of features that artists and collectors have been kind of desiring for a long time. Manifold has been supplying most of those for a while, but I think it's amazing to see some competition in the kind of the smart contract scene for artists.
Like Manifold, I think more is like providing tools to all artists. Transient's providing like performance in the contract.
Transient has been somewhat kind of white glove up to this point. They've got a product coming out called the Lab, which should, allow, I think it's like a subscription model, allow more people to access the tools. But I am big advocate for them. I pay attention, and then, like DeeZe said, Prohibition with Jordan and Eric. I love both of them. I think you'll notice a pattern with me is like if there's a project where I'm very like fond of the founders and how they think, then that's going to be enough for me to get to pay attention to like everything that they're doing pretty much. And so Prohibition has been great for me because even though I was around, kind of missed the affordable art blocks minting days, and I don't really collect at this moment with like any idea of upside, but Prohibition has been really fun to kind of get my kicks with generative art, because my collection leans far more into photography and digital art editions and one-of-ones. So generative art is a part of my portfolio that I'd really like to expand more, and Prohibition has been helping with that. And it's
Super
also,
dope.
I've never experimented with an L2 before Arbitrum, and I mean,
What
I
is
guess I did the Cosmo bass edition mint, but
I don't like bass.
I've stuck mostly to ETH. So it's fun working on like these faster chains and seeing like, yeah, that multi-chain thesis kind of like eye to eye.
Yeah, and look, DeeZe, I love your view, but to me, you have to believe in the founders and their ability to, like, ultimately any kind of startup or business in a new industry is going to require pivoting and changing and understanding where the market is. And I feel that with artists, like, I mean, Grant said this week, can't separate art and artist. And I totally
I agree.
And
No,
like,
yeah.
you can't, like, ultimately the wind will blow another way. And what you're betting on is either the artist or transient team or whomever, that in this constantly changing world, they're going to be smart enough and good people enough. They're going to treat you and others in a fair way. And so I start everything now. Somebody asked a question about how, I discover artists, but I always like want to know the artist or the people running the project well, and because otherwise you're really betting on them ultimately. So I think that's with these. Any comments?
No, I agree. I would say I these days seem to mostly collect from either people I've met in person or people I've known for a while. Like I've been watching a few people for over a year or two and still don't have their work, but like, trying to get a piece that speaks to me, but like I'm confident in them because I've been following them for so long. It's a lot less of the, oh, I just discovered this work but don't know this artist. I'm gonna like buy it and then get to know them. It's a lot more like I'm gonna get to know them first.
Yeah, 22 versus 23 for me. I was just like shotgun all over.
Yeah, I put out a tweet the other day that was something along the lines of, I see too many people, and I think their primary reason for collecting is the attention that they get from collecting, and not because they intrinsically love the work they're buying or the artist they're buying from. And I definitely got caught up in that when I was hosting 12 hours of spaces a day. I would host
people and people ask you. So I kind of like now I'm much more sniper, like, pianos, Sprat, Die 101, and one up. Like I used to buy
collecting with intention,
massive and understanding you don't have. One of the things I think people think acting, like doing stuff, is what you need to be doing. I actually think there's a lot of power in like only acting when you feel like it's a fuck yeah, like to the max, and that you like rather than, oh yeah, this is all right, or oh it's okay. So I don't know what these bubbles are. They seem to be coming on my screen, but the so I feel the same way. We only have about 5 or 6 minutes. What I love is overall NFTs. So for all of us, this is a huge, or all, like full-time what we do, or a huge part of our life. What has been the best thing in NFTs for you? And what is the thing you're finding the most difficult or the most frustrating, or that could have, be the hardest thing to like, that's making it hardest for you to stay in the space and love the space?
Oh man, you want to go first, Ben, or you want me to go?
I know the answer to the first question. It's the second one that what would push me away that I struggle with, because
what is pushing you away like now? What is hard about it?
For me, I can answer the second one, but not the first.
Okay, then let's supplement each other.
The thing pushing me away right now, and I don't know if this is because I'm not actively working for a company in the space, and I haven't been for the last 6 months. But the thing for me is just like the overall apathy and drudgery and crab in a bucket mentality that I see when I open up Twitter. It just makes me not want to like push to connect with people. It's a lot of people who are perpetual victims, a lot of woe is me. Like volumes are down bad for everybody. Like collectors are down bad too. People adopt this mentality of like, what have you done for me lately? And it's just really tiring to constantly try to engage with that. And I think part of it's the algorithm too. The For You page is just degraded terribly over the last year. And since I follow 6,200 people, I kind of rely on the For You page to give me the highlights of the day. And now it's just a lot of polarizing things. And a lot of it's not even from people I follow. It's just the algorithm thinks I'll like it, so they put it in my face. So I have to take a lot of time to connect with my friends and people who I know have long-term conviction on the space to remind myself like why I'm still here. I think talking to people like Barat and Batsoup and Derek Edwards and the people who like Andrew Jiang from Curated, like just going to these events, especially Marfa and Charleston over the last couple of weeks, like they really helped give me some more energy and help me zoom out. But I think the day-to-day drudgery and apathy and complaining every day just on the timeline is what does it for me and pushing me away.
Yeah, so okay, I guess a lot of people know me as like a pretty optimistic person. And DeeZe, I see like a lot of what you see, honestly. I think I kind of maybe am a little naive and I just attribute it to bear market vibes. And like, we're going to see lots of shitty stuff at the top as well, but because there's so much less up and up happening right now, it's just like the kind of more negative conversations that are getting pushed because people are bored and it's like kind of all of there is to talk about. For me, like one of the main reasons I was drawn to NFTs and crypto was because of the art and what the technology was enabling for artistic mediums. For me, it was at the start, it was photography and, like a new way to build a collector base or like connect with an audience deeper than just like an Instagram following. And that is something that like continues to be a major part of my thesis on why I spend so much time here. It's just that if there's any kind of subsection of the crypto community that I want to be involved in, it's with the art world. And crypto and NFTs has kind of been my introduction to even like traditional art and spending more time learning about artists from there. So one of the main reasons I stay here is because I believe in it to continue to expose me to new opportunities with new and exciting people, and learn more about the topics that I was interested in previously, which is art. And I think that the miniature art revolution that we have, going on right now with digital art is, if there's like one thing I hold conviction in, is that it's only going to continue and grow larger. I think that digital art has so many compounding factors going for it that is going to just make it one of the most long-lasting artistic revolutions of all time. There's just the flow of technology and information right now. It's just, I don't know. There's so many things that I am optimistic about that I would hate myself if I gave up on it now, in this sort of market circumstance. It's just, I believe, and that's really it.
And look, I think those are great answers, DeeZe. I would say I find the criminality, the scams, the lack of professionalism, the missed opportunities by often many leading artists and people in the space where they have a chance to uplift the space, but instead they don't behave in a fashion that lifts up the space. And so I think those are the challenges offset by, and as you said, look, the art market's 400 to 600 billion, 60 billion a year.
Art prevails.
Yeah, art's going to win. I think there are some of the best. For me, I've worked in finance, I've worked in manufacturing, and I'm into the culture and shit, but this is the best, some of the best and most fun and amazing people I've ever been with, and that gives me a lot of hope. And I think anyone out who's not doing the in real life part of NFTs, you're sort of missing the thing that will give you a foundation to not walk out the door.
It's the glue.
All this fucking trash that we have to put up with every day, and that we're trying to do stuff like this and other things to lift and do better. But so I'd say for me, NFTs. So have NFTs been a good thing in your life or a bad thing? For me, look, they were a very unexpected thing. And I'm a little different. Like I had nobody until making like good relationships in the space. I literally have like 0 friends who know anything about this. And when I've tried to talk to them, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? So for me to find this random little universe where people are like so smart and interesting and talented and nice, it's just been, and I finally feel like I'm not a weirdo and I found my home a bit. So
I mean, it's objectively, I think, been a good thing for all of us, even if there are
yeah,
pain points. Like I went from making 60 grand a year to not really needing to find a job immediately after losing my last job, and just having the financial stability that came from being early, being at the right places, holding the right things, selling some of it at the right time,
being a good dude.
has objectively been a life-changing experience. And like, could I have played it better and made a lot more? And yeah, but I could have also just worked my old job for 30 years until I was ground into a fucking husk and then retired when I was 60 and called it quits. So very, very thankful for everything that has happened to me in this space. I don't want it to seem like I'm a Debbie Downer and somebody trying to pull up a ladder behind me or something.
That was a legit, totally fucking reasonable answer.
And then, yeah, for me, I mean, just the age that I'm at now, it's like it's hard to imagine any other industry or passion that would have led to this sort of outcome. So I'm just like, words don't really begin to describe like how grateful I am to be here right now, and all the people that have kind of
show how grateful you are for the fact that you show up so hard, bro. So
yeah, it's like I kind of owe it to everybody to just kind of be here.
That's what shows it. So
and yeah, like my parents, my girlfriend, I have so many amazing friends here in the city. It's like those people help me so much to be the person that I am as well. And you know, I think that NFTs and crypto have altered the entire trajectory of my life. No matter what happens in this space, it's just kind of changed my way of thinking. The people that I've spent time around now have, you know, altered my perspective on life as well. And things are going to continue to change. I'm still very naive on like what life holds because I just haven't experienced that much of it. But I'm very, very happy to be here, and hope to be lifelong friends with all of you guys.
Yeah, you too, brother. Good outlook. Anything you guys want to say before we wrap it up? I hope you had fun today.
Oh, dude, this is the best.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love it. I love to hear that,
Thank
man.
you.
I do. It makes me so happy when guests like enjoy. I have so much fun just hanging out. Like
this format is so cool.
Yeah,
I like this more than Twitter Spaces.
It's way better. You can just hang out and you see the people. And like, I think one of the things right before the first episode, I was lucky. I love this podcast called Rewatchables. It's just like dudes hanging out talking about movies, or people hanging out talking about movies. And that's what sort of inspired the format. And like DeeZe said as well, for me to just, I want to like bring people on to an example of the greatness of this space, and then just hang and have people be like, want to hang with us. And so I always love if people are having fun. I think then the listeners that have fun too.
It's a great format, man. I love it. I'm super inspired.
My first one gets on camera ever, episode 9. All right, Stan. Much love. Yo, love you guys, and thank you so much. Such a joy.
Love you.
Really appreciate it.
Let's do it again.
Thank you for having us.
You're the best. All right. Money never sleeps.
Money never sleeps.
Money never sleeps.